Por María, muy buenas noches, and I have to say this, feliz 50. Happy 50th. So to say to us all, querido embajador, dear Ambassador Matthew, all of our Cape team, all of you, all of us, thank you. And that was a great panel, and everyone before, all of the amazing things that have already been done, but we can feel things are picking up pace. So, speaking of pace, this is a great moment in terms of looking at the time, but also we have 8 amazing presenters and panelists for this session. I just need to check with the tech team. Have we got all of our folks on Zoom online? Yep, thank you. What we're going to do, we're going to change around the order a bit because the folks who are on Zoom, one person's in Europe, I think one person might be in Mexico, and the time difference is quite significant. So we'll start with them. I will begin with saying, team, all of our panelists, let's go hard out, about 4 minutes each. We're going to rock this along, and so we can get some questions and dialogue. All right, I'll introduce quickly our panelists, and then team, please come up as I introduce you. The very wonderful, our own dear Adriana Destenave-Fernandez from the Latin America Cape team, one of our wonderful program managers. You can see her online on the left of the screen. Kia ora, Adriana. Robbie Francis Watene from the Lucy Foundation. Is she there? No. Not there.
Yes, I'm here.
We can hear you. You're there. Yay. Hey, Robbie. Kia ora. Priscila Pilatowsky from the New Zealand Institute of International Affairs, based in Palmerston North, but she's in Europe at the moment. Is she on screen? No. Okay. And here with us live in the audience, we have Judith Baez from Radio Onda. Please come up. Natalia Alberts, who is a top candidate for Wellington Central, who has promised not to make political broadcasts as part of her presentation. And Victoria Escaip from University of Canterbury. And lastly, we have Israel Reyes, who I've seen you somewhere in the audience. There he is, there, this guy. Please, welcome out to the stage. Okay, can you hear me? Yep. Team online, can you hear me? Kia ora. Well, to get us started, because this is about Mexicans' experiences, community experiences in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Edgar, true. Edgar, are you here? He is there. Sorry, I couldn't see you. Thank you. Give him a round of applause. Cheer. So, just want to get us started. This is about experiences Mexicans in New Zealand, and we also have one wonderful New Zealander, Robbie, experiences both in Mexico and here. I saw this great thing about 11 things Mexicans experience when they moved to New Zealand. I'm not going to say them all, but it's pretty funny. For example, you'll realize Mexico is the new black. You'll quickly notice that America is not the center of the world, and that geography is quite a relative subject in New Zealand. You'll spend quite a few weeks trying to find a serious newspaper. You'll learn how hard it is to get arrested. And I like the last one. One day you'll catch yourself in the middle of a supermarket without shoes. So we look forward to hearing from all of you, your wonderful experiences. We're going to start, and we're going to the home team first, Adriana in Mexico. So where are you? Are you in Oaxaca at the moment?
Yes, I am in Oaxaca City. We just arrived yesterday, so this is very good because I'm a bit jet lagged because it's midnight here. So yeah, this was a well overdue trip to see family and friends.
Great. Well, great to see you up there. So, Adriana, you work for the Capes. You've organised most of the logistics for this event before you left. Can you share with us how you moved from working on community matters to supporting our centre's programs for business?
Well, my background is in business. I took a break when I had my kids and I took time off. And in that time, I had the opportunity to coordinate Arcoiris, which is our Spanish playgroup in Wellington, where I had the privilege to get to know a lot of families from Latin America and Spain, and also the odd Kiwi family who had no connections to Latin America, but had traveled through the region and had learned a little bit of Spanish and just wanted to keep hanging out with us. But once my kids went back to school, I just decided that it was time to go back to work. And the last 2 years, I've had the privilege to work for the Latin American Cape. I am the program manager of our business program called Diversifying into Latin America. In this program, we've run webinars and sessions to promote more education and connection for New Zealand businesses about Latin America, and give them more information about why Mexico or other regions are exciting export markets for their wonderful products. So yeah, this is what I mainly do with the Capes, and it's been fantastic. Before working for the Latin American Cape, what I used to tell people about Mexico was mainly, my knowledge about food or traditions or, Mexico as a tourist destination. But since working with the Capes, I've had the opportunity to talk about Mexico, about it as a market. And it's amazing the feedback we have received. Usually it's with a big surprise face that our participants say, "Oh, I didn't know that." Things like the size of the population, Mexico City has 24 million people and the number just goes like, what? They sort of had the idea that it was a big city, but how big? How vibrant are our modern cities? And also, how young and educated the population is in some sectors like agribusiness and manufacturing. And also it's very interesting how to see how they react when you tell them that, building relationships are so important. I heard that on the previous panel, how to go to a business deal and expect, a barbecue with some beers. And, if you want to close the deal, might as well meet the whole family. So, yeah.
So, Joanna, in 1 minute, how do you think we can bring New Zealanders closer to Latin America and Mexico in our last year of work as the Capes? In 1 minute.
Look, I think with the DILA program, we've done a really good job educating and doing these connections with great businesses around New Zealand to get to know more about the opportunities that are presented in Mexico. I think we're on the right track. And I think on the next 12 months, we will continue to work on these programs with these sessions, and hopefully more people get the opportunity to hear about it on the next 12 months. We're looking forward to it, and it'll be my privilege to do so.
Oh, kia ora. Thank you.
Kia ora.
We'll move on now to Robbie. G'day, Robbie. Where are you in the world?
Kia ora koutou. I'm calling in from Papakura in South Auckland. Wow.
Exotic Papakura. Great to have you here with us. Doesn't that sound nice? Oaxaca to Papakura. So as most people in the room know, relationships with Mexico, it's not just about what New Zealanders can receive, but also what we can give. So for several years now, you've been leading a really groundbreaking initiative sending New Zealanders to Mexico to promote inclusion and access and diversity within the global coffee industry, so that people with disabilities there who are producers, they receive a fair wage. And I think you promote a disability inclusive value chain, which sounds amazing. Can you tell us something about your Lucy Foundation and the work you've done in Mexico?
Yeah, kia ora. So in 2014, I had this life-changing experience where I was working as an intern for an international disability rights organization in Mexico City. And my role was to document, honestly, quite horrific conditions that disabled people, I'm disabled, people like me, live in all around the world. And when I came back to Aotearoa, I shared these experiences with my friends, and, you know, we agreed there was no way we could continue with the status quo, knowing what we now knew. So we asked ourselves, well, what can we do to prevent the discrimination and poverty that is experienced by my community globally? And how can we actively demonstrate the value of diversity and inclusion? Naturally, we needed a product, coffee. Who doesn't love coffee, right? So the Lucy Foundation was born, named after my prosthetic Lucy leg. And we sent this email off around the world, and I tell you not, within a week, we'd received an email from a not-for-profit in southern Mexico reaching out to us saying that they work with disabled people in a coffee farming community called Pluma Hidalgo, a Zapotec village high in the mountains of Oaxaca. So skip forward a few years of whanaungatanga, relationship building, and rangahau, research. And in 2017, one of our team members, a Mexi Kiwi, moved from Aotearoa to Pluma Hidalgo to establish a disabled-led team on the ground to help the community grow healthier and stronger and high-yield crops, also while advancing disability rights. So to give you a quick rundown of the value chain, the coffee beans that are produced by the farmers locally are then processed by local disabled people and their whānau before being exported into Aotearoa by a disability-led Kiwi business called John Burton Limited. Now, once they're here, they're roasted, processed and sold by an all-disabled team in Kirikiriroa and Hamilton through the SEED training program, which supports young Kiwis with intellectual disabilities to participate in living wage work experience. So what we've actually created is the world's first product value chain that is entirely inclusive of disabled people, from the farmer in Mexico all the way to the consumer here in Aotearoa. And we're so proud of what we achieved. But, you know, I've heard this word come up a lot tonight, and it's relationships. And I think when I was reflecting, that was probably the greatest part of our value chain, is the relationships we've developed across the Pacific. You know, thanks to technology, we're communicating directly with our partners on the ground every day about their challenges and their successes in real time. And we're not just talking in English and Spanish, but sign language as well. It's incredible. We've also had a whole bunch of Kiwis, disabled and non-disabled, travel and stay in Pluma Hidalgo and build further relationships with the Zapotec people on the ground who we work with. And so, you know, there are many differences between our cultures, but there's so many similarities. And this was highlighted by my husband, who is Māori, on one of our stays in Pluma Hidalgo. And I think it's these similarities that allow us to work together to nurture Papatūānuku, the environment, to promote respect and dignity and human rights for disability communities and Indigenous communities on both sides of the world. So yeah, that's a little bit about what we do. It's a privilege to share our story. Thank you.
Oh, kia ora, and that's you were mentioning words like groundbreaking. It sounds like world-leading, inclusive. Love hearing about across the Pacific. We were talking about there's a lot of distance, but actually you were shrinking those distances with the beautiful work of yourself and your foundation. We'll give you a chance at the end to do a bit of a promo for the coffee and the foundation. But kia ora, thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to, I'm not sure, should I look up into the camera, so I'm looking at the folks online. Priscila Pilatowsky, are you there? Yes, g'day. Your background in history and interest in current affairs and media analysis has led you to lead, that's a hard one in English, led you to lead, the Palmerston North branch of the New Zealand Institute of International Affairs for most of the last 3 years. As its chair, you galvanised its events program and were able to see what global themes were most concerned to people beyond, if you like, the Wellington bubble. Were any of those themes of particular relevance to Mexico and to New Zealand?
Well, good afternoon, and thank you very much for the invitation, and I am honored to be part of this event. Well, the advantage of having a background in history is that it brings you a broader perspective of the present. So during my time as NZIIA chair of the Palmerston North Branch, I aim to foster debates focused mostly on trending topics in international affairs, such as global food systems, China's Belt Road Initiative, global citizenship, and
Priscilla,
more.
can I just interrupt? Can I get you to speak just a bit louder? I'm not sure, or our tech people, can you turn the volume up? Yep, go for it.
I don't know if I should, well, if you listen something, or if I should start
just
again?
What you did then, that worked really well. Just if you hold the mic cable up to you.
Okay. Okay, very good. Yes, I was saying that I try to promote the trending topics in international affairs, at least at the time, such as global food systems and global citizenship and that. And Palmerston North is very exceptional because of the universities and research centers that it has. So it provided me the opportunity to have a great pool of talent to take advantage. So I was particularly interested in promoting Latin American themes into the NZIIA events with a specific focus on Mexico, but I wanted to avoid these traditional stereotypes. Well, that was my idea at the beginning. And to mention one example, I realized that the Mexican embassy in New Zealand was particularly strong in digital diplomacy. So I organized an event about this, and I invited Ambassador Perez Bravo and Dr. Willem Hubbard to share their insights. And well, it was an interesting experience because this event attracted many individuals interested in the topic, but I did not engage the Mexican community in the numbers that I was expecting. So then, in another context with other Latin American fellows, we created the Hispanic Organization of Latin Americans in New Zealand, that maybe you know, is organization HOLA. And our first event was a potluck in collaboration with the Manawatu Multicultural Center that received much more than 150 attendees. So it was really, really successful. So I understood that there is a significant demand for Latin American cultural products, such as food, movies, art, music, and all that. And regarding Mexico, I think that the Palmerston North has greatly benefited from events like Dia de Muertos or the Frida Kahlo Festival. From my perspective, I think they are based on the typical stereotypes of Mexico and in a very limited knowledge of Mexican cultural diversity. However, I got convinced somehow that stereotypes are not always negative, as they have been shaped in Mexico as a strong global brand and an icon in the world, if I'm allowed to say this. So this said, my advice, I think, for future institutions or projects aiming to approach both countries will be to promote precisely Mexican diversity and also to build closer ties with Mexicans living in New Zealand and with Mexicans living abroad, as has been said by other colleagues right now. I think these individuals are really key actors in fostering economic and cultural exchanges beyond governments and agreements. So I think the celebration today, it's a great step forward in recognizing the contributions of Mexicans in New Zealand, and I'm very grateful for this. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to your questions and comments.
Oh, kia ora, and gracias to you, but sounds great. As you said, the stereotypes can sometimes be the positive stereotypes can be the great bridge towards future learning. So yeah, well done to you and all the team up there. And we know that you're very, very active, so thank you. All right, we'll now move on to Judith Baez beside me. Radio que Onda.
Hola, hola. ¿Sí? ¿Qué onda, qué onda?
So, yeah, I love you to hear you say Radio que Onda, because I know you'll say it better than me. But you're the driving force behind what is a long-running radio show. We first met in the early 2000s when you were doing...
That's right, another radio program.
Another radio program, so you got huge experience. So when you rebranded as Radio que Onda, what were you hoping to achieve when you created this version of what are many different programs you've done? What was the new vision, or not just a vision?
Yes, well, Que Onda was born in 2018, and I would say, like, you know, the people that know me here, they're used to listen to my voice in Spanish, so it must be a bit different to listen to me in English, but bear with me. So creating a radio program, it's I wanted to first of all celebrate and promote the culture and our language. That was the main thing. I have loved radio for many, many years, and so that was the opportunity in Wellington Access Radio. And I also wanted to create a space where the Spanish-speaking community can connect to their roots, their language, and we have current affairs. We have interviews. That's the main dish, and I can see many faces here that have been guests in the program, and so it's a great way to connect people, and and I think we're going through the right path. It's been several years. It's so grateful that, go to events like that and they recognize the program and they listen to it. And the program is not only for native speakers. It's also like, for example, Lupe that was here, people that had, New Zealanders that have had experiences to come and talk to us. And yeah, and it's great to listen to the stories that the community can relate to or can learn from it. And I can also say that I run the program with a great team, a great group of young people, and their enthusiasm and attitude is amazing.
Well, I think a lot of us have been interviewed on the program, which is always
You
a germ.
too,
I have to
yes.
add humour because it's
we
always
have music as well.
totally. I am looking at you because we never speak in English together.
You
so
see,
it's like,
you
is
see
that
what I
you
mean?
sound
That
like?
it's a bit strange.
But can you give us one of the most memorable moments?
Well, there are many, many memorable moments, and every guest brings an amazing story. And but I can say, if I have to pick one, maybe a memorable moment was back in 2021. We had a show about the Day of the Dead. That was just the team, but thanks to the creativity and initiative of the team at that moment, they brought, like face painting and things to put an altar, to improvise an altar. So we were all, face painted, and I think it was a great way to show New Zealand and the community what about about the celebration, and I remember that very fondly. But moments, amazing moments, many, all of them.
Well, I think watch out, because you can guess who's going to be working the crowd when we have a drink. Asking
Exactly.
you to be...
I'm always looking for talent, and Lupe and Zach are on my list already.
Fantastic. Well, yep, where are you going to be standing? We have to invent the corner where you can do your thing.
Exactly.
Well, kia ora, thank you. So it's wonderful, I think, to hear from the last panel to this, just interweaving all these amazing, it's the talent, it's the dedication, the knowledge, but even to keep stepping it up so people keep on learning. And I think as the bridge towards our next panelist, Natalia Albert, who is a candidate for the Opportunities Party, Wellington Central. We've known each other for quite a while. Exciting to see you on your latest version of what you're up to. Your contributions to New Zealand society, it's been from the Latin American community perspective. You organised New Zealand's first TEDx Women event, which was groundbreaking, I know. Now you're hoping to become the country's second Mexican MP. Without making a party political broadcast, can you tell us how your journey of public engagement has led you to put yourself forward for political office?
Yeah, sure. It's amazing to be here. I have been very moved listening to people speak so highly of Mexican, especially Mexican public servants. I don't think people recognize the caliber of our government and the quality of our public servants. And as a daughter of a single mother that was a diplomat for the Mexican government, I feel very honored to have heard New Zealand senior officials speak of Mexican public servants so highly. So I just wanted to commend you for doing that and sharing those stories. When I moved to New Zealand in 2011, in spite of my English and my 15 years experience in Mexico working and my bachelor in business and my confidence and willingness to start at an entry-level job, I couldn't get a job. And for almost 2 years, I parked cars, washed dishes, and folded napkins, which is fine, but it wasn't the level that I was operating at in Mexico when I moved here. The biggest feedback I would get was, we don't think you'll understand the Wellington market or the Wellington government. So in the spirit of not developing a chip shoulder that would enable me to move forward in Wellington, where I was very vested to stay, I started a nonprofit for women while parking cars and washing dishes to demonstrate that I could do something in the Wellington market. So I copied a model out of a group called Revolve Cycling, which was women cycling. So I did women walking and just replicated the thing in a Facebook group. That evolved into, after 2 years of running that and raising over $50,000 for Oxfam trail walking and inspiring 100 women to walk and getting an award from Oxfam, and then that got me from parking cars and washing dishes to admin support at the Ministry of Justice, and photocopying and binding, which I thought was a huge step forward. So I was like, right, I'm on my path. I can crack this. And at the same time, I started studying part-time online at MESI political science, because I wanted to improve my English and I wanted to make sure that I could compete with high-performing Kiwis. So for the next 6 years, I worked full-time, studied part-time, and endeavored in a nonprofit on the side that evolved into bringing the first TEDx Women event to New Zealand, which I produced for 4 years. We ran 3 events, and the core thing about TEDx Women is that my mission was that my team of volunteers was always going to be women of color from non-English speaking countries, where I could be their first reference and they didn't have to go through what I went through. And they could get their first entry job within government at the level that they deserve, that they were operating at in their host countries. And that's probably the biggest legacy that we left with the TEDx Women event in Wellington. However, it did send me down a path of understanding the gender debate in Wellington. I think in my 3rd event, I pissed off every Maori, Wahine in Wellington, all trans women in Wellington, all white women in Wellington. I grew a lot as a Mexican-born New Zealand citizen in terms of the dichotomy of tangata whenua and mana whenua, migrants, and the crown. And I found my place, and I went through a journey of literacy, of building my intellectual horsepower around Te Reo Māori and Maori worldviews and Maori tikanga. And as I finished my political science degree at MESI, focused on New Zealand government and the tensions between Maori and the Crown, I got really involved intellectually and professionally in the tensions of the different groups that we were building. So to wrap up, that was great. I eventually managed to finish my degree. I did a postgrad certificate, finished my master's at Victoria University in political science while working for government, and ended up doing really high-profile jobs like being private secretary for James Shaw in his first term, which was a professional highlight, and leading the social cohesion policy development that came out of the Royal Commission of Inquiry into the 15th of March attacks. And so I'm really proud of that. And in my next phase, as you said, I now feel like I want to stand on Ricardo's shoulders. I don't think that if Ricardo would have run, I would have felt like I could, to be quite frank. And I'm very excited to pave the way for now women of color from non-English speaking countries to feel the confidence that they can participate actively in the democracy and find a way to contribute to the very challenging issues that we have today and get the settings right and a fresh perspective and a balanced voice. And my last comment, that I just want to echo something someone said in a panel earlier: Mexicans build bridges, and tangata whenua build bridges, and Maori and Pacific communities build bridges, and I want to do that not just as a politician, but as a migrant and a New Zealand citizen.
Oh, kia ora. That's... I'm so pleased you could move on from washing cars and doing photocopying. Well, thank you for that, I'd say motivating story, but also about resilience, strength, and so on.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on now to Edgar. Discúlpame que te estaba perdido. Associate Professor Edgar Rodríguez Ramírez. He's from the School of Design and Innovation at Victoria University of Wellington. You've brought an amazing, flourishing academic career in industrial design in New Zealand, and I know globally. And you first came here as a PhD student to Victoria, is that correct?
I came back to New Zealand as a PhD student to Victoria.
You came back. Well, you can tell us more in a minute. That's great. Why did you choose New Zealand as a study destination, or why did you come here? And share any memories of how you were received on your arrival?
Yeah, so I grew up in Mexico City, in the slums of the north of the city. And my parents just said, education is what you can do. It's all we have. We don't have connections, business, anything else, so you have to go to school. So I just took that very seriously, and I went all the way to PhD. But first, when I left Mexico, I went to France to finish my degree in industrial design. I was working in Paris for a little while, and I met a Kiwi woman who was doing her an internship in Paris as well. So the head of a school of Otago University at the time came to okay, sorry. He came to visit here and said, if you want to go to, I was doing well as an industrial designer in Paris. And he said, if you ever want to go to New Zealand, I can easily find you a job teaching at the school. And I was like, New Zealand? I never thought about going there. I know John Alomu. That's all I knew about New Zealand, but I love the All Blacks, so yeah, let's go. So I was supposed to be here for 6 months, and that was in 2000. Then we broke up. I went back to Europe. I worked in different places. And I came back to Wellington because I had met my wife, who's from Wellington. And we decided to come back to Wellington because of the lifestyle. And after living in the Netherlands, in France, in Italy, South Korea, Wellington was my favorite place by far. The perfect size for me. Not too big, not too small, waterfront, weather, people, community. So I loved it. So I decided to come and do my PhD at the same time as I was lecturing in the School of Design. So it was the two together.
I think we should have filmed your little promo for Wellington there.
Thank you.
That was beautiful.
One story you said, and do you remember any stories about how you were received?
Yes.
I had been living in France, and as a very warm Mexican, I love hugging people. And, proxemics is the last thing that goes away when you culturally assimilate to a new country, so that sense of proximity to other that you have as a culture. So, and then I was living in France, right? So we were all kissing each other to say hello before COVID times, of course. So I meet one of my partner at the time, one of her friends, and I just go, the first time, the day I arrived, I meet her, and I just go like, oh, hi, so nice to meet you. And she just went like, oh. So everybody else was very nice to me, but.
Yeah. Well, I think a learning, and sometimes a chicken with lupe and anyone else who's done that, but Kiwis who've been overseas and then come home and do the same thing, and they think, what has happened to you? So always a nice negotiation about how to kind of change gear, I guess, and be flexible. Listen, just really quickly, can you comment on any ongoing research collaborations you may have with Mexico? Because you're in this really exciting area of design, innovation, interaction design.
Yes, I mainly design medical technologies. And we've done MRIs, devices for stroke rehabilitation. I left Mexico because I wanted to have social mobility, right? I understand that that's why now, that it has a name. Yeah. So in order to achieve that social mobility, I had to assimilate to the places. It was really hard to not to. When I came to New Zealand, there were 83 Mexican people registered at the embassy as living here. So there's more people in this room now than all the Mexicans in New Zealand at the time. So it was hard to keep that connection. But then I found Matoranga Maori is actually what brought me back to Mexican connection. Those indigenous knowledge methodologies to understand how to decolonize ourselves has been really, really valuable for me. I understand much more about my own indigeneity as Mexican. I love saying that my mountain is Popocatépetl and my river is the Hat Valley River. And that combination is amazing for me. So I'm understanding a lot more about that connection. So It's not something that I kept up a lot, but it's something I'm really working on now towards reconnecting with that indigeneity and Mexican design from that perspective and traditional indigenous design.
Oh, kia ora. I'm so pleased we could keep you both at Victoria University of Wellington, but in Wellington, do you call yourself a Mexican Kiwi?
Mexikiwi.
Mexikiwi, yes.
Both citizen of both places now.
Yeah, beautiful. Oh, kia ora, thank you. We'll jump now, and thank you, Edgar. We're going to jump now to Victoria. Escaip, who we've known each other for a long time, I think from a photo project with you and your husband in probably the mid-2000s.
That was many, many years ago.
Long time ago. Yeah. So, but it's really been really exciting to engage with you and the University of Canterbury team, but you was a real powerhouse. University of Canterbury isn't in the CAPES consortium, but you've been the most wonderful collaborator and champion of our CAPE program, so thank you for that.
No, thank you.
No, but can you tell us something of your wider efforts about sharing Mexican culture all around Aotearoa and then South Island? Because you're like this navigation beacon in the South Island.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Can you tell us about, you know, what you've been doing and with students in the South Island particularly?
We've been doing a lot of things for the last years. First of all, I want to say that I'm very proud and very happy that I have the opportunity not only to teach Spanish, but also to open a large door for students so they can walk through and explore the Hispanic world in all its facets. And it's not only about the language, it's history, it's music, it's art, it's sports, literature, and of course all these amazing places that are part of the Spanish-speaking world, like Oaxaca or Querétaro. And I must say that when I show my students the world map so they can identify and locate the countries where the Spanish language is spoken, I can see that many of them are really surprised and impressed by the extension of Latin America and by the large number of people that speak Spanish in the world. And actually, I have to say that I also make sure to make a point and point out at the map and clarify this widespread misconception that Mexico is in South America or in Central America. So I teach my students, and I make them repeat with me, Mexico is in North America, together with the United States and Canada. Yes. And so I think that a fair number of the Canterbury University students that have participated in Latin America CAPE programs have taken this course called Journey Through Hispanic Civilization and Culture, where we have a thorough overview and understanding of history and Spanish or developments in the Spanish and the Latin American cultures and civilizations. And so we talk about major events, we talk about important movements and figures, but also the students acquire very good understanding of the nature of the multifaceted nature of Latin American people. And that's actually what makes them to develop sense of solidarity with the hopes and the dreams and the struggles of Latin American people, because they don't have any idea sometimes what's happening there. And so that's why they actually develop this intellectual curiosity and want to do more and want to know more and do more. And that's where, you know, Latin American CAPE programs come into play, because they provide them with great opportunities to not only keep on learning, but also to participate actively in these projects, wonderful projects that you organize and carry on. And I just wanted to say as well, as for the wider efforts to sharing our Mexican and Latin American culture and language in New Zealand, I must give huge credit to the amazing Spanish high school teachers from Christchurch, from the Canterbury, and from all over New Zealand. We have developed really nice and tight networks, and we have been working for a number of years in a series of projects, some local projects, like the Spanish Immersion Day that you have attended, and you did a great speech. And also the Spanish dance video project that we carry all over New Zealand. Lots of music, of course, because that's a very important part of our culture. So thank you very much to all those amazing teachers that are very passionate about what they do, and they are so good at their jobs. So thank you so much. That's all.
Kia ora, thank you. So if you want to see some of the work that Victoria does, I think there's an amazing video of a whole mixture of people singing and dancing Te Reo Māori, Spanish, and so on, and a collaboration between Māori musician, traditional instruments, and so on. So
Yeah. So you have to watch it. Just look it up at YouTube. It's called Bailan, like bailar, dance, Bailan, and then Kotahitanga, which is the Maori word for unity or togetherness. So the song is called Bailan Kotahitanga. And so it's a really nice song, and as Craig said, it was a product of collaboration of so many people who, really just participated on a voluntary basis and out of love for the culture.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, thank you. All right, last but not least, Israel Reyes, who's a cybersecurity consultant, which is very much of these times. Cybersecurity, you've in more than 2 decades work across Latin America and around the world. You've worked with governments and private sector clients building their information resilience and coordinating the execution of response plans during crises. How did you come to New Zealand? Why did you come here? And to what extent does your location in New Zealand help or hinder?
Yeah, well, thank you very much, everyone, for organizing this amazing event, to the ambassador, to Matthew. And well, that's a really good question. That puts me so many years back in time. It was 1998 when I finished my degree in applied mathematics and computer science in University of Colorado. And I remember in the science building was an advertising that New Zealand, the Department of Fisheries, were hiring statisticians to come to do a statistical analysis in water quality and fish. So I remember I just finished my degree, and I asked one of my professors in 1998, what do you think if I go to work to New Zealand? And he told me, wow, New Zealand is very far away. Nothing is there, very badly. He says only they do fishing, that's it. It's nothing there, I wouldn't go. 2 weeks later, I get an offer for American Express, so I start to work in American Express, also because the salary was big difference. But I always keep in the back of my mind New Zealand. So after that, I developed my first piece of software, which I did it with no intention. I do a statistical analysis to predict the probability of failure on the Cisco devices, but for some reason, one of my managers, which used to be in the military, and he was retired from the war in 1991, he saw the software and he told me, I will show this to my friends at the FBI, because it's a really good idea to see the traffic for abnormal behavior analysis. I didn't do it with that intention. So when he presented, they love it. They say, oh, we want this for financial intelligence. So they brought me a lot of papers, deed of intellectual property, non-disclosure agreements, and I give the software for free. I did not make any money. But back to the university, I told them, they were annoyed with me because they say, you could be a millionaire now if you sold that software. So I decided to study a master's degree in cryptography, which is elliptic curve and so on. And then from there, while I was working with the US government, I went to work to Russia. Well, I was working in Russia for 2 years. Then from there, I wanted to have a break, 1 year break. And I always remember New Zealand because I was thinking, oh, it's like a free, a very environmental country. I would take 1 year of sabbatical. And then I came finally to New Zealand to take 1 year off. But when I was in Wellington, I just fall in love with the city. I really like it. And then IBM offered me a job. So I was working for Defense Force in a contracts in Linton in the Signals Battalion, very close to Palmerston North. And I developed more experience in cybersecurity. And then in 2016, I back to the United States to teach at George Washington University and to Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where I met my wife in Harvard University because she's a medical doctor from Harvard. And then from there, I was hired by National Geographic to do a documentary in dark web. And then we decided to back to New Zealand to have our baby, which was born in March. And now we are here in New Zealand. So
oh, congratulations. Well, fantastic. And I think because I've got Nikki's holding up the 1 minute sign. So in 1 minute, so what are you doing now? In 1 minute, cybersecurity,
yeah,
the impossible task. Give us 1 minute.
Yeah. Well, I still do a lot of work. I'm an advisor for several parliamentarians in the United States, in Colombia, in Mexico, in Chile. I recently was in a meeting with the president of Chile. And I'm going to London with the parliamentarians of the United States and the UK. I've been promoting cyber resiliency and sovereignty because the cyberspace now is the fifth generation warfare. As you know, in Ukraine and Russia and in the Europe, cyber attacks are becoming more often and more severe. And there is a lot of work because it's no regulation, no legislation. It's really scary when you see what effects they can take when they target critical infrastructure. So part of my work right now is being in TV, doing a lot of public opinion as a subject matter expert, but working with parliamentarians to make cyber law.
Cool. Well, thanks for that. Well done. That was pretty much 1 minute, so well done.
No pressure.
No pressure. But listen, I think it's a wonderful mix of what each of you have been doing in your lives and all of the strengths and struggles. But so wonderful to have you all here. To the three of you who are online, can we just have a special round of applause for those who are online? I'll do the quick plug for you, Robbie, for Pluma Hidalgo, the coffee, the Lucy Foundation. Go check it out. Go buy some coffee and maybe donate to the foundation as well. And also to our wonderful folks who have got here physically. Edgar, to you also, and to Victoria, and to Natalia, and lastly to you, Judith. Thanks so much. I think it's a wonderful walkthrough about amazing lives, talent, I guess stickability, like stick at it, like Natalia, thinking of what you said. Thanks so much. It's so exciting about Mexicans in New Zealand, and of course, New Zealanders in Mexico. So thanks so much. This is our Community Experiences panel. I'm sure come up and talk with all these folks here. And if you want to follow up with the folks who are on Zoom, we can provide some details if they're happy to share their details so you can talk with them in the future. So kia ora, big round of applause for everyone. Thank you.